Hello and welcome to this lesson about adding and subtracting integers. In this video, I'm going to use these counters here to help demonstrate how the addition and subtraction process works with integers. Now, let's keep in mind that integers are numbers like -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on in both directions. They are both positive and negative whole numbers, so no fractions. All right, and then the other thing I want you to keep in mind about adding and subtracting integers is that negative signs mean opposite. So negative, that means opposite. And that's where the counter comes in really, really handy. If we look at how these counters work, we say that the yellow side is +1 and that the red side is -1. They're opposites of each other. And when we think about, how do I find the opposite of the yellow side? I flip it over and I get the red side. That's going to come in really handy for us. So let's take a look at some examples and see how we do this. Let's start off with something pretty straightforward. 5 plus 3. Technically, that is an integer problem. And so if we think about how 5 plus 3 works, is we have to have 3 yellows and 5 yellows. And then what we do is we count them up. How many yellows do you have? Well, our total is 8. Now, let's mix it up a little bit. Instead of saying 5 plus 3, let's say we have 5 plus -3. All right? Well, remember, negatives mean opposite. So what we have to do is flip over these 3 yellows so that they are 3 reds. And then the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that, I should probably erase that 8 there because that's not true yet, is that these guys cancel each other out. So these are no longer in consideration because they're opposites. They add up to be 0. So we can remove those, and what I'm left with is 2 yellows, and so that's going to be +2. Now, let's continue to play different variations of this so we can kind of, again, see how it all works. Let's now say we have -5 plus +3. Let's see what that is. So -5 means I have to have 5 of these reds, or counters, 5 red counters, and then I'm going to have 3 positive counters. And I check them out to see which ones overlap. These 3 all cancel each other out, and this leaves me with 2 reds, which I would write as -2. Okay, now, erase that. Let's make this -3 and see what happens. So again, I need 5 reds for the -5, and I'll need 3 reds for the -3. And here, they don't cancel out because they're all the same color. So I just count them all up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there we go. We have -8 because they're all red. They're negative. All right. Now, let's make things really confusing. Let's say we have 5 minus -3. Okay. So what we're going to do is start off with 5 positive ones, so 5 yellows, just like that. All right, then -3 means that I have to have them be 3 reds, but here's the catch. This negative sign means do the opposite. And so when we combine these together, subtracting -3, we have to do the opposite. So that means we have to flip this over to make this plus +3, and that gives us 8 as our answer. And so again, that's what kind of confuses a lot of people. When you have back-to-back negatives, it becomes positive. And it all has to do because of the fact that negative signs mean do the opposite. Okay, let's do another example of this one. Now let's say we have oops, give myself some space for the counters. Let's say I have -5 minus -3. All right, so what I'm going to do is have 5 reds for the -5. And then I have 3 reds for the -3. But because I'm subtracting them, that means I have to do the opposite. So again, if you have back-to-back negatives like that, you turn them into plus signs. And so I flip this over, and it becomes +3. I'm doing the opposite because of the minus sign. I then see which 3 of these, or how many of these line up, and 3 of them line up again. And so now I'm left with -2. So this started off as -5 minus -3, and it's the same thing as saying -5 plus 3. And either way, we end up getting -2 as our answer. So hopefully, this little demonstration with the counters made it a little more apparent about how this addition and subtraction of integers works. Again, the main idea is that you have to think negatives mean opposite. So you're always going to do the opposite, and with the counters, it's great because you're literally flipping it over and seeing the opposite side. So good luck with homework or practice, and let me know if you have any questions.